Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome to a Tetrabit gaming reaction. And this is 10 best unused secrets in Deltarune so far. So, yes, this video came out just a couple of days before Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 came out, so we're definitely going to have to see, like, what in the video is still unused, if anything in there, if anything in this video was actually used or turned out to be used. I mean, I know I'm watching this before I've played chapter 4. I'm probably going to have to do that either like later today or tomorrow. Definitely going to have to see. But honestly, like, ironically, like, again, I love learning and I love seeing, like, all these fact videos, but just all the little things that pop up in video games, because, again, like, I like seeing, what we eventually got and how it eventually, actually got there. So yeah, this is can't remember, I think I have watched Tetrabit Gaming before, though not in a long time. So if this video does well, I'll watch more of their videos. Leave suggestions in the comments or, in my Discord server, whichever. But yeah, let's get this thing started then. So yeah, of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it yet for some reason. Corner video linked to my Let's Play of the day, which, at this point is probably going to be Deltarune related. And yeah, if you like this video or any other video that I make, I'd very much appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to my channel, because my main goal for this year is to hopefully hit 5,000 subscribers, and at the current rate I'm going, that is totally doable. At the current time of recording, I am under 150 subscribers away from getting 5,000 subscribers, and I have some things planned for a 5,000 subscriber celebration. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
Today we'll be checking out 10 of the best bits of unused content in Deltarune chapters 1 and 2 as we lead up to the highly anticipated releases of chapters 3 and 4 right around the corner. These include debug modes, unused graphics, test rooms, and much more. So go chuck some potassium at that like button below. Let's get into it. Number 1. Kicking things off here, we got the debug mode from chapter 1. And I think one of the most interesting things you can do with this debug mode is move around where you aren't normally supposed to. During a
Oh wait, is that partially where, they found the whole thing where for some reason the Dark World sprites are like twice as big as the Light World sprites? Again, I'm still trying to figure out the reason for that.
Scripted cutscene, you can bring up the debug menu and effectively regain control of your character and continue to move around while the cutscene progresses.
I mean, that's rules card. What are you gonna do? That's all the disrespect he deserves.
And although your character doesn't appear to be moving, you actually still are. Now, one of the more interesting things I was able to do with this was to move all the way to the right while the final King Boss cutscene was playing, effectively making the game think that I had actually beaten the king, as everything in the area changed to how it appears after defeating him.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Like, I guess that just goes to show how things are scripted. There's literally just, it's like, you're only supposed to be here after you've beaten the king, so, hey, if you're here, that means you've already beaten him. And yeah, I mean, I can totally see that.
Also, when you move around in the game during a cutscene when you aren't supposed to, it makes the dialogue text kind of messed up. And in some cases, as shown here in the flower shop, since I previously skipped the cutscene and re-entered the room from the top, the game tried to repeat the cutscene and it forced me out of bounds, which resulted in the game soft locking. And yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun testing out this debug feature in the game's various cutscenes.
It's always so much fun when using the debug mode actually creates more bugs in the process.
Number 2. Now, there are a lot of unused sprites and graphics found in chapters 1 and 2, including various placeholders. For starters, there's this Chris sprite referenced as Chris Place. Yep, during the early development stages, this is apparently what Chris looked like.
I mean, I guess Chris has always been blue. Okay.
In my video on Chapter 2, we also covered the sprite just called SPR Placeholder, which is just a character outline graphic that is used as a placeholder for most of the NPCs in the game that have the ability to face in different directions.
Oh.
Then there's also these two unused dialogue portraits for Susie and Ralsei.
Yeah, I've seen those before. God, they're so stupid looking. I absolutely love them.
Some early versions of the trees that are seen in the Scarlet Forest, and it looks like they were originally planned to appear in blue and yellow as well, but with the name Scarlet Forest, it makes sense that they decided on just using the red variant.
Yeah, makes
then
sense.
For Chapter 2, the unused graphics include this really basic placeholder graphic with some lines and anime written on the bottom. Then we got this fella, who is a placeholder for the arcade machine that you use to play against the Queen.
Yeah, I can see why they didn't use that one. Jeez, I don't think they'd allow. I don't think Microsoft will allow them to use that.
Now this guy features some seemingly very unintuitive controls, as well as Xbox branding on the top, which was likely removed later due to licensing issues. Then we got an early placeholder for this lock that requires the keygen from Spamton to get through, and this looks pretty much identical to the locked door sprite from Zelda 2 Adventures of Link for the NES.
I wonder if they changed that for, legal reasons or just because they wanted to do a better design like the one we got in the game later on.
And then last but not least, we have this guy. This little dancing stick figure fella is meant to be a placeholder for the screen at the start of Cyberworld. And most interestingly, we see this little guy again in an unused Cyberworld room that was used to test the Virovirokun enemies. When hit in this room, this stick fella actually grows to become this very basic monster looking thing that starts to chase you. Like I said at the start here, there are loads more of these unused sprites and graphics, so if you'd like to see them all, definitely check out the other videos that I've made on this game, which are linked in the description below.
Interesting. Very interesting. Again, some of these I can understand, why they weren't used, because they are very, very placeholder. But, some of these other ones, like the teacup one, even just having it spin around, that it looks like an actual teacup ride. Because, I know the whole joke is that, they're, teacups and they spin around. But I don't think I've ever actually seen an actual teacup ride where the teacups actually had handles. They were always just cups. Honestly, the closest I could potentially think of that was, I know I've seen, at carnivals more than a couple times, where instead of a cup, it was like a giant apple with, an opening on one side. You'd climb into the opening, and the entire thing was just an apple. But it's funny, the teacup ride, honestly, honestly, for being a teacup ride, I don't think I've ever actually seen it in the shape of a teacup in real life. Interesting.
Number 3. Spamton Neo was a really cool secret boss fight in Chapter 2, and it turned out that there are several placeholder graphics associated with this fight too. These include this very early sketch of Spamton Neo's final form, where originally his wings may have been planned to be placed closer to his face.
Okay, interesting. Thinking about it, I just realized this looks very similar to... I'm only just realizing that this looks very similar to the boss fight that you do in the fan game, a different weird route where you fight Spamton, who took over Queen's giant mech instead of the Neo body. I'm only just realizing that I'm only now just realizing the connection to the design there. Huh.
Ace. Additionally, there are early versions of his wire heart attack, with the early version appearing green, as opposed to the final graphic, which is more of a turquoise color. Then also for the wire heart, we got early round and spiky green versions of the chain, as well as 2 scrapped alternate attacks for the wire heart, including this wire heart biter, as well as a wire heart bomb, both of which have very much unfinished associated sprites.
Yeah.
And since both of these placeholder graphics appear to use the same green ball chain link mentioned earlier, they seem to more likely be alternatives or supplements to the main wire heart attack.
I really have to wonder, because, so obviously, the placeholder chain link thing is just a hastily drawn circle in pixels. But for something like that, you'd think, would it have taken that much longer to actually go into, Photoshop or something and just, make an actual round shape instead of just squiggling out something very quickly? Because then you wouldn't have had to replace it later.
We also saw some unused graphics for what looks to be an early version of the final face attack, here seen in orange, as opposed to white as is seen in the final. We can also see a graphic for
I don't like how it looked like it was growing out of the wall. That's kind of disturbing.
This heart, and it's unclear what this heart graphic could have been used for, but based on the default color being white, it's likely that it's from another scrapped attack. And we're not done yet, as there are even more unused Spamton graphics. Here we can see Spamton laughing, getting distorted, presumably taking damage. We have this one which is related to a joke of some sort based on the file name. There's one where he's being deleted out of existence.
Those little heads, they look like the ones that come out of a Peepus when they hit. Like when they explode and release all the Spamton heads.
And the same head-exploding graphic can also be found for Susie and Ralsei, which, based on the names of these graphics, it seems quite likely that they all derive from a scrapped attack sequence of sorts from the Spamton Neo fight.
That's weird, okay.
Number 4. There are some unused graphics for Ralsei's manual that is given to the player at the start of Chapter 1.
Oh my god, did it originally have a punch card? Really?
Now here this book is titled Ralsei's Guide to the Dark Realm, and it is also interesting to note that this book is shown to have been written in the 2020s, which is a few years after the first chapter was already released. Now starting off in the guide, we see the dedication and forward section similar to what you might expect in a school textbook. And this guide appears to have been meant to show the player how to play the game, since it goes over the controls, menu, as well as the battle mechanics. Now it seems likely that this little guide was scrapped earlier during the game's development, as it completely lacks any reference to the spare command, instead featuring an unused command where a dog has apparently eaten your commands and you can't do anything.
God, man, just to think there's this earlier version of the one we already do get in the game files, which again, I love the fact that it's like, again, somebody like me, you're told, oh, I'll give you this manual you can read, and then just never think about it again because you don't actually see it in the game when you're actually given it in, quote unquote, in the game. Oh, again, Toby, what are you doing? I love you.
For the rest of your life. This guide also mentions an overworld talk command, and it mentions the ability to restore TP via save points. Both of these things went unused in the final release.
Yeah, considering TP is very much a per battle thing, it's not something you can get outside of battle.
And then concluding the guide here, there's a note section as well as a final page with a self-portrait of Ralsei, where he says that he's looking forward to meeting with you. Now, unfortunately, if you try to read the manual in the current release of the game, nothing really happens, and some text pops up saying that apparently the guide is too dense. I think the original intention of this item is really cool, and it's a shame that it went unused in the final release. Number 5. For those of you who love unused text, we have some unique dialogue for the Castletown Cafe owner when they see Noelle. If you select the recommendation option, a random member of your party is selected, and the owner will make a remark towards them. Now, normally you can never visit this cafe with Noelle as a member of your party, and this results in some text strings going normally unused.
I mean, you can't bring her in yet. I mean, we still have 3 chapters to go, so you never know.
However, with some save editing, you can force in this dialogue, and when done so, the shop owner will recommend the cinnamon eggnog to Noelle, also mentioning that they shaved some candy canes on top for some extra flavor. And also for Noelle, there are a bunch of unused bits of text for items that she can never normally use, as she leaves the player's party before these items are ever obtained. Now these items include Ralsei tea, Susie tea, spaghetti code, butt juice, revive dust, poison, puppet scarf, broken sword, B-shot bow tie, chainmail, twin ribbon, spike band, deal maker, and the frayed bow tie. And along with all of these, there are more bits of text for Noelle left behind for several items that were unused in Chapter 1, but they remained left over. For these, we got one for the mouse token, which subtly references Chuck E. Cheese, Everybody Weapon, Fave Sandwich, Giga Salad, which is actually a unique one as it has coding to heal Noelle for 90 HP, instead of 4 HP like it does for any of the other characters. And then finally, there is Trefoil, which actually makes fun of the fact that it is, in fact, unused, which is pretty funny.
Oh god, I love that. But it's just over that, I was kind of thinking, just going back to the whole, cinnamon eggnog with, shaved candy cane on top. And I just thought, I mean, obviously at this point, we all know very well that, Noelle and her family are all very heavily Christmas themed because, reindeer and stuff like that. But I really have to wonder, like, why specifically? Like, what is it specifically about the holidays that they're all themed around? Like, is it a cultural thing for them? Like, that's just their, their cultural background? Or, like, I mean, granted, this is probably one of those things I probably shouldn't think too hard about, and it's probably, and just, it's supposed to go with it because, that's the joke, reindeer girl, Christmas themed. But it is really curious, like, just like for an enrolled reason, why are they so obsessed with Christmas?
Number 6. Now, in the last Lost Bits video I made on Deltarune several years ago, I covered all of the unused rooms. And yeah, there are a lot of them. And let's go over some of the more noteworthy ones in the mix. First up, for the Queen's Mansion, we can see some unused teacup elevator rides that each have a different pattern of obstacles to avoid. Now, it seems like the idea here was to try out a bunch of different obstacles and see which ones the devs wanted to keep and which ones they wanted to scrap, as there are 4 different ones that can be seen here.
God, I'm getting flashbacks when I first tried to beat Spamton Neo, and there was a part of there where I just couldn't get past the teacup ride. It was evil. Ugh!
And an extra weird tidbit about Teacup Room 2 here is that if you enter this room as Chris alone, you end up in an alternate version of it where we see here that the bottom path is missing. When I went to check, the game does an interesting trick where the path I mentioned before actually just disappears after the cutscene with Birdly. And then another cool unused room is this one for the 3-headed mini-boss Clover found in Chapter 1. Now, this room is likely meant for Lancer's castle since it's found right after Lancer's room, and even though the NPCs use the default Jigsaw Joe sprites, they, along with many of the other objects found in this room, have unfinished text.
Wait, really? Jigsaw Joe is the default sprite? Really? Oh, that's how good, so good for him. That's like nothing ever seems to go well for the Jigsaw pieces, so I'm happy that, he at least gets something, that he's, number 1 at the very least in something.
Which suggests that this might have been a late scrap. And furthermore, apart from the basic assets of this area, this room looks to be identical to Clover's room seen in the Card Castle in Chapter 1.
Just slightly reshaped, yeah.
The text for all of the characters is also identical, so from this we can assume that the 3 shown here are Clover, as well as a Rudin and a Hathy. So maybe this room was supposed to appear in Chapter 2 as well, since it is somewhat accessible. Now for number 7, let's check out another debug feature from Chapter 1, and this one is pretty cool as it allows you to teleport between different rooms. If you hold the W key and press any number between 1 and 6, the game will teleport you to a room near the end of the game. Then holding D and pressing a number between 3 and 9 will teleport you to rooms that are seen more in the middle of the game. And then finally, you can press the insert or delete keys, which will then take you to the previous or next room found sequentially in the game's code, respectively.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out, because something like that, I mean, granted, that's a pretty complicated set of commands to figure out, to teleport around to different rooms. You honestly, do you think the debuggers literally had just a piece of paper next to the computer, just listing out all the commands for which combination would lead to which room?
It should be cautioned that even though this was a lot of fun to play around with, it did often lead to the game getting soft-locked or it crashing altogether.
I can imagine, yeah.
Number 8. Here we have a very interesting unused room that actually features a complete cutscene that was ultimately scrapped from Chapter 2. This cutscene involves Birdly tasking Chris with completing a traffic puzzle that is actually pretty simple. Yeah, it's nothing too crazy as far as puzzles go, but the fact that there is a complete cutscene here is pretty cool, and it's actually kind of a funny cutscene. And there's actually another instance.
I mean, I guess that just goes more towards the whole thing of showing that, Birdly isn't as smart as he let on until, the big quote-unquote reveal later in the chapter,
where we see a similar cut traffic puzzle segment. However, this one is special since you have to stop the cars sideways, and you can toggle the legs on or off. Now, I can't think of any sideways car puzzles appearing in the game, or the ability to toggle the legs sideways, but in any case, I guess this is where those were meant to be tested.
Interesting.
Number 9. Now let's have a look at some of the unused audio files for the annoying dog, also known as Dog Check. Now this first audio track in Chapter 1 is technically used, but not accessible during normal play, so I would still classify this as unused.
Dog check. Oh, God. Very relaxing.
For this audio to play, you have to mess around with some of the save files of the game and load into one of the rooms that you aren't normally supposed to access. Once you do that, you will see this sleeping dog known as Annoying Dog, or in this case, Dog Check, with the music playing in the background. Now apparently a similar event occurs in Undertale, but using a different song. However, I haven't tried that one out myself yet. Then the next audio track involving this fella is also technically not unused, but again, you either have to mess around with the game's files to hear it, or it's a pretty rare occurrence. This one can be found in Chapter 2, and it again features the annoying dog, but this time with some friends, and they have all upgraded to ride around in some little vehicles. Anyways, this time the audio track is titled Alarm Title Screen.
Alarm title screen? Okay, so I mean, the other one I could totally understand. You know, just so alarm title screen. Does that mean either, like, one, it's supposed to be alarm, alarm, you're not supposed to be here, or was this supposed to be actually used for something at one point? Because title screen, again, really weird.
Now, as you heard, this track is much more upbeat than the one heard in Chapter 1.
Very much so,
and
yes.
Based on the file name, it's possible that this track may have originally been from the planned Undertale alarm clock app, which was supposed to be released in 2020 to commemorate the 5th anniversary of the game's release. And this theory is only further supported on the Undertale website, which states that the developer of this app was actually asked to help with the development of Deltarune instead.
Wait, really?
Number 10.
God. Actually, you know, I've heard about this, the alarm clock app so much, and, you know, I've heard, you know, people taking, you know, the dialogue and stuff from it. Why was it ever canceled? I'm still not sure on that. Oh, okay, okay, that was literally it. One of the reasons was because the app developer is asked to work on Deltarune instead. Oh, okay. I did not read that screen before in the video.
Lastly, for this countdown, we have some graphics that are seemingly related to an unused birthday party cutscene. We got an animation of a birthday cake and some presents appearing, the annoying dog, this time with what looks like a collar, as well as with and without a stripe thing on its side. There's an unused sprite of whatever this small thing is supposed to be, as well as a party hat, which actually has color, unlike the other graphic.
Well, I mean, look, going back, actually, is it just me, or does that look very similar, or wait, if I go back, is it just me, or does that look very similar to the little, points icon you get, whenever you get, like, extra points from doing in the cooking minigame? Like from getting a special guest or something like that. That might not be unused anymore. Interesting.
Supposed to be, as well as a party hat, which
looks like one of the
has color, unlike the other graphics. It seems like this could have made for a pretty cool cutscene, so I guess only time will tell if we see this get used in future chapters. And my friends, those are 10 of what I think are the most interesting lost bits of Deltarune's first 2 chapters. I'll be playing through and making videos on chapters 3 and 4 real soon here, so be sure to subscribe to the channel to find your way back here in the future. And as always, thank you all so much for stopping by today, and I will see you in a bit.
God, that's one of those things. Like I have been. It's honestly been stressing me out. I finished chapter 3. Fully edited all those videos. At the current time, I've released. I released chapter 3, and then there's another 3 episodes after that. But it has been so stressful making sure that I don't get spoiled on anything for chapter 4. Oh, oh god, I'm definitely gonna have to do that tomorrow, because this is honestly starting to kill me. But yeah, that's definitely gonna be it for now. So yeah, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.